because sometimes you will travel very long distance, 200, 300 kilometers in rural areas, in remote, and you ask yourself, why am I sleeping in such kind of condition? But when you hear people saying, you have changed my life, you'll be energized yourself. You'll feel like, okay, let me do it again and again.
This is a podcast called Walk, Talk, Listen. An attempt to connect people and make this world a bit better by sharing opinions and experiences based on the belief that everyone's perspective is true, albeit partial. My name is Maurice Blom, and I would like to welcome you to yet another episode of Walk, Talk, Listen.
Okay, good day, everybody. This is another episode of the podcast Walk, Talk, Listen, and I'm delighted with today's guest, actually, as always. And I will ask my guest to introduce himself. Edwin, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maurice. I'm Edwin Maleko. I work for Sightsavers
Mhm.
Tanzania as a program manager. And actually, I joined Sightsavers since 2016. And just last
Wow,
1 week, I finished my 10 years with Sightsavers.
congratulations.
And yeah, so when it comes to my journey, I was born uh, almost 39 years back,
Uh-huh.
and raised in Kilimanjaro, the slope of Mount Kilimanjaro.
Mm,
So in a Christian family, so
mhm,
I'm a Christian. That is what I can say. But looking at my journey with the NGO sector, I was motivated by my parent, actually my father, who used to work with a refugees organization. So from learning from his work, interacting with him, then I was interested to also work um, in NGO sector. And now it is almost 13 years. I have 13 years of experience in this sector, working with different organizations. And my first job was real. I worked with one organization called Tanganyika Christian Refugees. And from it was actually for 1 year. Then I was employed by World Vision International. I
mhm,
was based in Tanzania, and I was supporting a number of programs, including health programs, education programs, child protection programs, agriculture, and all that. Then in 2016, I joined Sightsavers as a project coordinator. Then I was promoted to program officer after 3 years. Then now I'm here as a program manager, and my journey really is very impressive, very interesting, and yeah.
And yeah, no, and I would like to hear specifically about the work that you are doing and what your organization Site Savers is doing. But I would like first to go a few steps back because so you mentioned you were born and raised close to the Kilimanjaro. Tell us a bit, about what you did as a child, and do you have siblings, and especially for the listeners who are not familiar with Kilimanjaro, try to describe it because it's one of the most beautiful places on earth, right?
Yeah. When I was, I was a kid and, young boy, uh, if I'm to recall, I used to attend school from Monday to Friday. But during weekends, in Kilimanjaro, we have a lot of banana trees, coffee. So we are doing coffee farming. So when I was a kid, I was very interested to go around the coffee farming, look at my grand parents, the process that they are doing to farm coffee, but also eating bananas was interesting at that time, and
Mm,
playing with my friends, playing football. outside. And the weather in Kilimanjaro is really good. So rain, sometime we have like prolonged rain season by then, but now it has changed. It is
Mm.
always sunny. But yeah, so that was, but also going to church, the Sunday schools.
Hmm.
I recall, those days when we had to go to Sunday schools, to be taught about our Christian faith and all that. Yeah. So yeah, I can recall it is so long, but yeah.
But yeah, so you enjoyed that time. So you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have my brothers. I have two brothers, and two sisters, and three sisters.
Okay.
And yeah, but they were both like myself. When I was raised, my parents used to relocate in different places. And at some point, we had to move to the northern part, western part of Tanzania, because my dad was working there. And my mother also was a teacher, so she was at some point she was relocated to one region called Shinyanga. Then we had to to travel to relocate with them. So my sister at that time, my elder sister, were in secondary school when, if I'm to recall, she was at secondary school, and my brother as well. But my young brother, who is following me, was still very little.
Mm.
So both, especially my sister and my brother, were, they used to like farming, taking care of cattle. We had cows, we had,
Okay.
goats
Yeah.
at our house.
Uh-huh.
So they like to go outside there and take care of the cattle and, cows, because we have a very big farm in our house. So that is what I remember really. But
Yeah.
yeah, we had a
Oh, yeah.
very good journey with a lot of happy time, good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that sounds wonderful. So, were there some people maybe that shaped you growing up, and maybe outside of your parents or s- aunties
After
or
starting my apart from my parent, actually,
yeah.
I have a very lovely aunt called
Mm-hmm.
Eva.
Mm-hmm.
And I recall those days. She used to like to cook chapati. There is,
Okay. Yeah.
a bite called chapati, so a wheat bite. So she was very caring, and for her, going to church was a priority, a top priority. And the our church leaders, I recall those days, the way they were training us, the Ten Commandments.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think it was like an initial point to shape my life. That is what
Mm-hmm.
I can say.
Mm-hmm.
But in schools as well, in school, the way we were taught how to interact with our colleague, taking care of ourselves, making sure that we are always like safe. But also when I joined secondary school, it was a boarding school at that time, and we were taught on fruit and vegetable gardening. So we had a lot of vegetables, farming plots. So each student at that time had to have like a small piece of garden to
Mm-hmm.
take care of it.
Okay.
And every day you should visit your garden and make sure that you report on monthly basis, so
Yeah.
that I learned a lot when it comes to farming, practically. Yeah. So yeah, that shaped my life. That is what I can say, really. Yeah.
May I ask you a question then about the boarding school? How old were you? And was that difficult then to be without your parents?
At that time, I was 13 years old.
Okay.
And actually, the first day was awkward. I can remember, actually, I went, it was like 150 kilometers from my home place.
Okay. Well.
And it's a mountain area. So, climbing the mountain, you know, forestry and all that. And the first day, it was raining a lot, a heavy rain. And because I had, we had like dormitory. So my bed were located very close to the door. So that day was awkward, I can recall. A lot of thunderstorms. The meal was not, the same as I used to eat at home. So it was a struggle. I think the first 4 months was not a good experience to me.
Not easy. Yeah.
And when I went back home, my mother was like, "Hey, you should. I think you should find. We should find another school." But I said, "No. I have a lot of friends. The environment is cool. But the initial, the first 4 months was not good. But at the end, I was able to, to adapt,
Uh-huh.
and I can recall it was a good life. That is what I can say. We had a
Okay.
lot of teachers, loving teachers, friends. Yeah. So
So I guess, getting through those for the first couple of months was really formative for you. Is that still something that, yeah, tells who you are? I mean, it might be sometimes not easy, but you will, persist and continue and yeah,
yeah, and yeah, I think the first 4 months was very crucial to my
yeah.
life. I recall I had like a brother, a school brother. So he
Uh-huh.
was sleeping nearby me, and that guy was real nice, and he was very religious. He liked to go out there to to pray, and he used to, "Hey, Edwin, wake up, we need to go and pray." He's called Richard. The guy was amazing. He shaped me a lot, and he was encouraging me. Hey,
Hmm.
this is how you should live. You should keep your property that way. You should take care of your properties. Don't leave your bags closed, open. Make sure that they are always closed.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, he shaped me really, and he was fantastic in his academic. He was like top in his at that time. He was in form 3, so he was top student in his class, and he encouraged me a lot, and I always remember him.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Great. And are you still in contact with him or not?
uh, I think I once lost his contact. I was once informed that he relocated to Japan, so I'm not in contact
Ah,
with
okay.
him. But he
Yeah.
has a friend who was in Form 4 that time, and he's also in Japan, and I'm in contact with him. And one day I asked him, "Can you link me with Richard?" And he said, "Let me try," but even himself is not, no. And actually,
Okay.
they are both in Japan. If you go through what Facebook, we find someone called Moses Kwabi. He
Okay.
was a friend to Richard,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, we are still in contact. But the
Okay.
Richard is we are not in contact anymore,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
which is
Um.
sad.
No, and that's great to hear that you had somebody that helped you and take care of you during difficult times. You mentioned in the beginning that at least that's how I understood it, that you got into the NGO work maybe due to your father, because your father was also involved with assisting refugees. But as a young person, um, what did you imagine you would become? Was it always I will be an NGO worker, or you had another dream before that, another picture of your future?
When I was still young,
Yeah.
uh, I thought I'll become like a politician, and actually, it was motivated by my parents because um, one day they talked. I asked my father about why they decided to call me Edwin, and he told me a story that my name's. Actually, my question was, what what is the meaning of my name, and why you decided to call me Edwin? And he said to me, I don't know the meaning of Edwin, but I know the reason why we decided. And we had in Tanzania, we had a politician called Edwin. Then I tried to follow up Edwin, who is that guy, and Then I thought I'll become a politician. Later on, I wanted to go to a seminary school, and I thought I'll become a religious leaders. And usually, when I started my work, people used to call me like, "You should be a religious, person." Eh?"
Uh-huh.
So it was a mixed feelings. Sometimes when you grow,
Yeah.
you will think that way, but then I,
So
I found myself in the NGO sector because of me that.
okay. So was there a particular moment when development work uh, first became interesting to you?
I once visited um, a refugee couple, and but also I met with a number of staff who at that time were working with my father. Then I asked for a number of documents so that I can read, what are they doing, the impact that they are bringing to the community. And also, asked my father his journey and my mother as well at that time. And my father told me, he started by working in the government. Then he decided to move to the NGO sector by then. So I started like to compare government and the NGO. Then I found myself, reading the document, reading online the stories about NGO. Then I found myself I need to work in non-profit oriented organizations. And so that was the start of my journey, really. That is what I can say. Seeing people supported by organizations. I think it was the starting point to me.
Okay. Yeah. And
Yeah.
many people work in development, but not, I think far fewer stay committed for more than a decade, like you, right? You work already for a long time. Um, so I would like to go back to the beginning then maybe of your journey into development. What lessons from those early days, early years, still influence your work today?
Um, that one is tricky, but for me, because in NGO sector we receive a lot of money from donors. And I recall when I was working with World Vision, it is a Christian organization actually. I know, maybe you know the World Vision. And before starting work, we had to pray. We had to have like a prayer, 1 hour or so for prayers. But um, the way I saw people in the NGO sector, they are very committed when it comes to trust, you know, the way people act in a kindness way, but also the dedication, to bring impact, because it's not about um, going to work. And because in an NGO sector, we usually sign contract, 1 year contract, 2 years contract. And when I sign my contract, I ask myself, why do they give me a contract? What can I bring to this, office? I'm always trying to ask myself. And uh, I feel like it is an opportunity for very few people because a lot of people want to join the NGO sector. So it is like there is a call for me to accomplish. So that motivates me a lot. And with Sightsavers now, we are talking about, preventing blindness, disability inclusion. Since I joined Sightsavers, I thought I'll stay for maybe 3 or 4 years. Then I'll be departing to other organization. But the way we work with people, with the government, the way we interact with, the community, because we interact with the community, policymakers, service providers. So I see a lot of changes. And, when I meet with our project beneficiaries, they maybe receive cataract operation in one day, then Someone will say, I can see again. You can imagine that feelings. You feel like, hey, I really need to be to continue to do this kind of job.
Mm.
You talk with the disability committee chairs, they will tell you, we really need our Sightsavers to help us to promote maybe this policy to be changed, to influence change. And we work with them throughout the process. We co-create with them programs. We implement together. The way the government, accept our programs. Uh, but mostly the stories from our beneficiaries
Uh,
touch a lot. I remember even it was last year. We had visitors from the Church of Jesus Christ um, with us in Dodoma region. Then we traveled about 200, almost 200 kilometers from the center, and we met with a lot of people who were waiting for surgeries. We had an outreach camp, and we met with one old woman, and she was telling our visitors that, hey, you have changed my life. You have been sent by God. I can now see. You can imagine that message, Maurice. Whenever you want to quit the organization, you still, oh, let me continue to work in this organization because of the impact that we bring to the community, the change. And you will be surprised in Tanzania. One day I visited one district, we had a surgical camp. And the first day, the doctors screened about 150 patients. And out of them, they saw 80 patients with cataract. So you can imagine. And people are just waiting for outreach service to get service because they are living in remote areas. They cannot access service. They cannot afford the transport cost. uh, Even the awareness is very low, you can imagine. So working in such kind of sector and promoting health equity, you will always think, I need to stay again and again.
mm.
I need to stay again and again. So there is a lot of impact that we are
Yeah, yeah.
bringing. We are not. Sometimes I sometimes feel like I need to give money to also contribute to such kind of programs. But one day I was reflecting about the work that I'm doing. I said, this is also part of my contribution to the community. Because sometimes you will travel very long distance, 200, 300 kilometers in rural areas, in
Mm-hmm.
remote, and you ask yourself, why am I sleeping in such kind of condition? But when you hear people saying, you have changed my life, you'll be energized yourself. You'll feel
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, let me do it again and again. I recall one day we visited one family. In that family, they had 4 children with cataract. They had children, 400, four children with cataract. Then we had to support to bring an ophthalmologist, a pediatric ophthalmologist, send them to the hospital. They were operated and they started to see. So you can imagine, and I thought, like, I was trying to think if it was my family. I was trying to imagine. Yeah, so there is a lot of stories to be shared, but how Sightsavers really work with the government, and even now the way I'm respected by the Minister of Health, the Prime Minister's office. I can just call the director.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have this session. Can we work together? And they know me, So even my network have been expanded. I know a lot of people. They respect me. Even today, I had a meeting with WHO team Geneva, talking about inclusion, health equity. So you can
Uh,
imagine. So it is also an opportunity for me to expand my network, to even change the way I do things, network it, and I feel like it will help me beyond my work at Sightsavers. We bring impact, but beyond the work that we are
mm-hmm.
doing, it will also change individual staff who is working here. I have been traveling to different countries like Mozambique, Sierra Leone, see how what they are doing there, bringing the learning in my country. Yeah, developing programs, system changing of the system to ensure that we promote health equity. So a lot of positive, um, uh, stories that encourage me to do this work really.
Yeah.
And you can imagine globally, I read the WHO report on eye health, vision loss, and they are saying that almost 2.2 billion people um, have visual impairment. So you can imagine. And now think about the mid income countries, the lower income countries like Tanzania. The situation is more worse. And whenever we do this, the outreaches, like now we have screened through the current Macho Yangu project that have been funded by the Church of Jesus Christ. We have screened about 2,000 people, 200,000 people. And out of them, 95% were found with different eye conditions, 7% cataract. They were operated. It's a lot of people, you can imagine. So almost that tells you a lot that without such kind of programs, people will, lose their vision. They will become blind. There is a lot of glaucoma cases. There is a lot of, child refractive cases, error cases. We have been screening a lot of children. Almost currently, since we started with this program, we have screened about uh, almost 100,000 children.
Mhm.
And out of them, 3% require spectacles, but we have only offered 1% spectacles to 1% out of those who require. So you can see the demand, the need. And we have not, with our school screening program, we have not, it was implemented, we are only implementing in center, in town areas.
Uh,
But imagine if you are to go in rural areas, the situation, I can imagine the situation is more worse because they are not accessing the information. They cannot afford, you know, even acceptance. Sometimes someone can have money, can access, but awareness.
mhm.
Because of awareness, they think like spectacles can damage my eye. Surgery is not good for women. So there is, those kind of positive, negative community perception around spectacles, around, cataract surgery. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
that is,
um,
yeah.
no, thanks, Edwin, for explaining that. So, obviously, um, although you work on eye health, it's much bigger than that. There are so if I did my homework correctly, is what you were talking about, is that called the Boresha Macho program? And do I pronounce that properly? Or is that something else?
Macho Yangu project. It is called Macho Yangu project.
Okay.
Macho Yangu
Okay.
project.
Um, yeah, so, what did it teach you about building sustainable change rather than short-term projects?
Um, at Sightsavers, we design our programs by looking at systems and not,
Yeah.
short-term project.
And so the
So
collaboration with the government is really important as well, right? That which you
very
already
important.
described.
And
Yeah.
that is our top priority.
Yeah.
But we are not looking at, like outreaches only. We are not looking at, one component. We align with the WHO health um, system building blocks.
Hmm.
We look at human resource for eye health. We, with our current project, we have trained a lot of eye care staffs from primary level. We have trained about 200 plus primary healthcare workers so that they can detect vision. So when this project ends, they will still be there because we have created the demand. We have trained staff, but also we have trained about 4 cataract surgeons. So all this address the issue of system and sustainability. And with the Church of Jesus Christ funds, We have procured a lot of equipment, like in Dodoma Regional Referral Hospital. When we started, they were not providing cataract surgery because they had no equipment. They had no like uh, consumables like medications. And at that time, they were screening about 100 people per month. But now it is 900 to 1,000 per month. So you can imagine. So with the equipment, we have addressed the issue of sustainability because people are now aware that when we visit Dodoma, we'll get, service. But we do a lot of advocacy and policy change, influence for policy change. We are doing a lot of, national level engagement meetings. We are part of the national, technical working group for health. So we do promote issues around eye health, vision loss, vision care. But also we have been supporting with this project, we have been supporting the review of the National Eye Care Strategic Plan, just to make sure that everything we do is, also part of the wider health sector planning and not like a project, a standing alone project. But also with how we, sometimes when you create awareness, you create demand, people will continue to demand services, and they will push the government to do what, to provide eye care services. That way, we have like a local level advocacy approach that always promote eye care, uh, even if there is not a project when we quit the regions. But also we have seen the government now started to procure equipment uh, through their own funds. We have like now 4 districts that have been procuring equipment, expensive one, from the government owned sources. All is because of the advocate work, the advocacy that we are doing. But also we promote alliance. We have been doing a lot of meetings of with other eye care NGOs to bring them together, like to discuss. We have projects, but what can we do when it comes to systemic changes, changing of systems? So yeah, our programs are not like a one time of a project, but we look at things from the system level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great to hear, and the collaboration also with other organizations outside of the government as well. We often hear the phrase "leave no one behind." In practice, who is still being left behind, or who is often still left behind?
Mostly in our case, pe- persons with disabilities, but also women. And when it comes to eye health, children's, children, especially the school age, the under 5 and school age children. But mostly I can say is people with disabilities because of the issues around accessibility, you know, reasonable accommodation. There's no reasonable accommodation. That is why in our project, in our programs, we always address the issue of, a universal access, and not, we focus on the universal access to health services. And last year we were working with the Ministry of Health and WHO to develop a national action plan for health equity, just to address the issue of leave no one behind. Yeah, that is what I can say really. Yeah.
Okay, and and what I was wondering, there is an increasing discussion also about locally led development, and maybe even more so because of uh, changes in funding. You know, USAID has been dismantled. Um, a lot of other countries are following suit. What does that mean from your perspective? You know, the locally led development. Um, And maybe what are international actors still getting wrong?
Uh, that one is uh, from my own perspective when it comes to local aid. You were saying local aid development. Am I right?
Yeah, locally
Local aid.
led development. Yes.
Yeah, I think it is a very wide topic, but for me, when it comes to local level development, we need to look at it at individual level, uh, reflecting at the resource available, you know, the capacity that we have, external risk, and how we navigate. But it is a real wide topic. But more important, um, for a country to achieve like a local, local led development, we really need to look at context. What exists Tanzania, and we can think globally, but everything that we can think globally, but make sure that we localize. Like when it comes to the community, are we helping people to like have health insurance card? Do they have money to pay for their insurance? Because they need to pay for their health service. Do we have development program or economic empowerment program that can help like people with disability to access health services? What are the opportunities out there in the community? Are we taking advantage of those opportunities, or we are just bringing project to global aid? Say this is your project. We Local aid for me is like we need to focus on co-creation process, making sure that the communities themselves, they are frontliners. They know their priorities, they know the opportunities, they identify the risks, they understand how to finance their priorities. Then how can they also take advantage of external opportunities? For me, that is how I define it. It's a very long topic, but it should start from the community and
Uh-huh.
should be created by them, should be guided by them. We only need to ensure that they have a right information, access to information, access to opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, thanks for that, Edwin. And maybe when I'm listening carefully to you and trying to connect the different pieces, you were talking initially about, we are looking at changing the systems, right? And as a result, you work with the different stakeholders, government, other organizations, the community. Um, and um, I would like to ask, and then what you're saying is you should really work with the individuals, and keep the context in mind. Tell me if I'm, you know, uh, not summarizing this correctly. But what I wanted to share with you is, there is this growing group of people around the world that is saying, one of the reasons that we are not um, managing to make systems more sustainable or make the changes into the system so that that it will be more sustainable, and maybe most specifically, um, when we are talking in our field of development about system changes, we are talking about the 17 sustainable development goals: ending hunger, ending poverty, etc. um, they are saying that, one of the reasons is that we are not reaching those goals that we set to have a more sustainable development, is that we don't pay proper attention to the abilities, skills, and knowledge that you need to work on as an individual and as a community. So they identified 5 inner development goals: being, thinking, relating, collaborating, and acting. And under that are 25 skills like critical thinking, um, forgiveness, um, empathy. My question to you is, yeah, what are your thoughts when you hear me saying that in terms of the inner development goals, that they are also, that you need to develop them in order to achieve a sustainable development? So those system changes. And does that resonate with what you're trying to do in your daily work at Sightsavers as well?
Yeah, with the SDGs, looking at my context, because you are talking about the SDG and the core principle to to attain the SDGs, if I'm getting you properly, I think that globally, but also in Africa, there are a lot of changes, like in leadership. And at Site Service, like in Tanzania, we usually support the preparation of SDG report, the voluntary VNR, voluntary national report. We usually support OPDs to come together. We bring, different ministries. But what I have learned looking at the SDGs is a systematic thinking. You know, we have a lot of, ministries, but they are not working uh, in a coordinated manner. You are talking about health. You are talking about, ending poverty. How ending poverty is coordinated with health. How agriculture is linked with health. How issues around education is linked with economic empowerment, ending poverty. So for me, the ongoing changes of leadership, you know, improper transition of leadership contribute to compromise the issue of, changing people's life. You know, someone will come to power, will come with, you know, like everything is new to within the government. This is my priority, but do we have like a systematic transition of power to translate the SDGs so that we can continuously, implement the SDG? But globally, there is a lot of priority. And like in health, we have the so-called Abuja Declaration that says 15% of national budget should be allocated for health. In our context, even we are not in even 6%, but it is a global like requirement, Africa requirement. So translating the SDG, looking at the principles, for me, we really need to have like a coordinated mechanism. We need to have like few sectors, but well coordinated that can, the multiplier effect. What we like is having a multiplier effect in whatever we do.
Yeah,
That is
and
what I can say.
no, thank you for your perspective on that. I
Even the
think
collaboration is sorry. Okay, go ahead. I thought you were on mute. Maybe somewhere I lost it. You.
no, I was saying thank you for sharing your perspective. What I wanted to ask you around the inner development goals. So what they are saying is that they acknowledge, I think, the observations and the recommendations that you just shared. They also say in addition, what it requires is from the people and the communities within that, the government, NGOs, etc. It requires also inner development. They need to work on things like critical thinking and empathy, so that they would be more inclined to collaborate, you know, to work together and to achieve, to strive for those system changes. Um, and therefore, they came up with outside of the sustainable development goals, you also need to work on your inner self. And I mean, I'm hearing that a little bit in the way you were explaining it, and I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, but when I heard you talking about, the importance of faith and why you do that, that
Mm.
seems to resonate with that as well.
Okay. Now,
It,
now I get to. I recall. Thank you so much. I think now it is clear to me. I recall by those days, we had the so-called. Um, we had a program that we were attending different training. One training was called Christian Impact Mission when I worked with World Vision, and changing people attitudes, making sure that people, become critical thinkers, of which a lot of people were changed by then. But now looking at the community where we currently work, there is there is a very huge gap between those who went to schools, those who are coming from rich families, those who are religious, and those who are not. So if you are talking about cultivating, an inner, you know, kind like of spirit, it will help a lot if we achieve that, because we need people who can give, who people who will be ready to, to commit themselves to others, dedicate their life to others. And I have seen it like the way we receive money from the church of Jesus Christ. Is someone maybe sitting at the US or wherever giving money to Tanzania? And sometimes I ask myself, why don't rich people here give money to, their fellow colleagues? Why don't they, why people are spending a lot of money for luxury life? People now are gathering like science and technology, blah, blah, blah. But wisdom, being a wise person, being someone who is, who can be ready to lose everything for others to be safe, especially the next generation. I really think we need to, to get like a lot of ambassadors who are giving, and, they should go out there, explain the importance of giving, and, you know, show people how it transforms their life. So with faith, I think, based organizations, we have a very good opportunity to, to do that, because I can imagine if you are politicians, you go out there to the community, the way people will listen to you is quite different to, to like faith leaders in our community here. Church leaders will be respected. So we really need to have an like a religious impact mission to change the way people think, to build confidence, uh, to ensure that people are critical thinkers. They think beyond, physical things. That is what I can say.
mm,
It is a journey,
yeah.
and I appreciate that it's not easy, but we really need to, to make sure that people understand the importance of giving rather
Hmm.
aggressively, even our kids.
Yeah.
And we should start now, especially the upcoming generation, to be quite different to us. That way, uh, even the SDGs will be achieved.
Mm. Okay, I like your optimism, and maybe Edwin, then the first step within that is ensuring that people are connecting. I mean, there is so much polarization, there are so many assumptions going on. What I hope that this podcast is contributing to is connecting people. I mean, you and I are connected. We are connected with the listeners. Um, I'm going to connect you with the previous guest, and the previous guest has a question for you. And the question is,
I'd really be interested to hear. I don't know how you could raise the same issues with them. Is what's happening in the U.S. is that comparable to what's happening in the Netherlands or Germany, and in what way is that comparable, and in what way um, are citizens of that country pushing back and helping to move the world in a better direction?
Yeah, Morris, to be frankly, is a trick question, but the context is quite different. Looking at the US and Tanzania when it comes to development programs, uh, our experience here, I don't know if the US experience, is to receive support. That is our experience. And with the US is to give, if you, that is my perception, I might be wrong, is to give countries support like health programs, education program support. And in my context, what I can say is more, people are suffering from health issues, disease outbreak, you know, shortage of funds to support programs. So in a way, like um, the current situation of closing out the USAID in Tanzania, they've closed the office, and number of programs have been closed. I recall we once had at Sightsavers Tanzania, we once had a USAID funded project. It ended actually before the current administration. But people here, like they are Friday, like what is going on? There's Ebola now outbreak. We had COVID. What will happen if we have no such, we have no big programs? So that is what people are thinking. But they are also reflecting, like in your account, the tax base, the revenue that we are collecting, are the revenue sufficient? We receive also a lot of money from the European Union, you see. But with the global changes like the US, how the US, new initiative of closing programs will also be considered by other, countries like the UK, the FCDO have also changed their priorities. And people are here in Tanzania are fighting really to, especially the health sector, education sector,
So,
economic empowerment.
so what are maybe some of the actions then that are happening? I mean, so I understand. Okay, you are fearful maybe what is happening, but are there actions in trying to push back or find alternatives?
Do you mean as an organization or as a country?
No, as a country, you know.
Uh, yeah, we in Tanzania we're now talking about universal health insurance coverage when it comes to health. We have Tanzania Development Vision 2050 that says uh, in 2050 we need our economy to be mostly funded by private sector by 70%. Uh, that is, like our motivations, but we are not, I'm personally not, sure if it will happen. Looking at the ongoing risk, the pandemic, climate change. So the focus really locally is to increase the tax base, making sure that a lot of people are paying tax, uh, you know, policy change to, to to attract the business community to come to Tanzania to do business so that we can generate more revenue. But it will take time. It will really take time because even Kenya, even other countries in Africa, they are thinking the same. You see, uh, we are also in our country. We are also talking about effective utilization of the resources we have, like minerals, oil and gas, coal, and all that. Land, agriculture. But I think we were talking about attitude change. Um, the way we think, systematic thinking. I think we need to invest a lot on human resource so that we can find ourselves locally. Otherwise, we are still depending on developing countries.
Okay.
Developed countries,
Yeah.
donors like the Church of Jesus
Hmm.
Christ, they are mostly reliable. That is what at the moment.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And that's great to have and to
Mm.
yeah. So that's good to hear. Um, okay, Edwin, I would like to ask you because I want to connect you with the next guest. We don't know who the next guest is yet. But if I ask you to come up with a question for the next guest, what will you ask?
Uh, yeah. What I would like to hear from the next guest, I know there is a lot of going on, global issues like the Iran war. There is a lot of like Ebola outbreak. So I wanted to hear from the next guest in his or her area of work. Um, what is, you know, her or his goal to expand access to opportunities in a limited resource context like ours? Maybe if he has like three priorities to, focus on.
Okay, thank you. Um, I like music. I don't know about you, but I always, because of that, I always have a question about music as well. So I would like to ask you if you had to choose a song or a piece of music that represents for a big part, you know, who you are, what you are about, which song or piece of music would that be and why?
And a song, eh, and a song, do you mean like a song or a poem or maybe
Yeah, no,
lyric?
a piece of music. Yeah, yeah. Could be him.
I act, mhm. I actually like to listen um to gospel songs. So that is my interest. Mostly over the weekend, I'll just go through my, a list of music. So one song that I like is a Swahili song that says, "Jesus, I have faith in you." And we used to sing it a lot when I was at that time when I was working with World Vision, because every day we should pray. It is it is in our timetable. It is a must. So I really like it. It
And
always
why
touch
why
me.
why do you like that? Is it because of the lyrics? Because of
Mhm.
the
The
you know?
message
Okay,
is
okay.
touching. Yeah, because it has a lot of good message. Like Jesus, whenever I'm closer to you, when I encounter a lot of challenge, and think of you, I feel like relieved and all that. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so that always touches me a lot.
Okay.
Mm.
And is there a special rendition, of a certain choir or
Mhm.
that you
Sorry?
specifically is there a special rendition, a special choir that when they sing it that you like it, or just anyone who sings that song uh yeah, you like listening to?
Anyone who sing that song,
Okay.
not like a special. It is like I rejoice because I have put my trust in you, Jesus. Jesus, beloved and friend, be with me forever. Whenever I count a challenge, kind relieve me and you know give me power again. I always, you know, become happy when I'm closer to you. So Jesus, Jesus, I love you. Jesus, Jesus, make my heart feel your presence always. That is the song.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice. Thank
yeah.
you so much. um Edwin, these conversations always go fast. Um, and before I thank you for today's conversations and your willingness to talk with me, um, yeah, is there any question that I did not ask you today that you wish I would have?
But I think mostly I have covered in my explanation. That is what I can say. Yeah.
No, I, I think so too. I mean, that's why, um, and and for the listeners, I always send some questions in advance,
Mm.
to help to to pinpoint at certain things that we would like to address during a conversation. But you, from my point of view, you covered a lot of things when you were talking. So that's why I said I'm not going to ask this because you just answered this, or you packaged it already in your
I was
answer.
talking
So
a lot. I was
no, no,
talking a
no,
lot. Yeah.
no, no. That's it was very informative, I think, and I think the listeners really enjoyed. I'm sure they will enjoy and enjoyed listening to you explaining your passion and your great work around this important work. So I would therefore also encourage the listeners to check out the Sightsavers website. Do you know what the website is?
You want me to share all?
Yeah, what is it sightsavers.org or what is
Yes,
the
Sightsavers. If someone just write Google Sightsavers, you'll
Sightsaver?
just write away.
Yeah, we will make sure that we mention that also in the podcast notes. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, thank you so much, Edwin, for everything you do, for who you are, and yeah, all the best with you know everything you do, and keep on doing it. So it's important work, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and wishing you all the best as well.
Thank you, and take care.
Okay, bye bye. Bye bye.
Thank you for listening to Walk, Talk, Listen. Please check us out on 100mile.org or follow us on Facebook or Instagram.